Okay, we are back. I'm really sorry about that, everyone. Um, Hi, thank you again, everyone, Jasmine. Um, let's wait for everyone and see whether they're dialed in. In the meantime, Jasmine, did you have any questions from what you've heard so far? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yes, I was on mute, sorry. Yeah, I do have a question, a follow-up question to Ariel's question actually, where you mentioned about um the C-suites. So a lot of current CSM roles kind of requires to engage and speak with the C-suite. But I would say that it really depends on the type of CSM role that we are taking up, right? There are some CSM roles that are very project driven, and we kind of work with um with the ground people. I would call them the operational side of things, right? Especially for, say, example, a software
Yeah.
company. So I was just wondering how someone who has extensive uh, experience in speaking and connecting with the operational users and s- how can they transit into having the confidence and gaining the kind of etiquette to start speaking with the C-suite.
Yeah. So have you been able to build an effective relationship with a couple of your customer or like to the point where you feel that they can, you know, introduce you or you've gained their trust for you to do so?
I think that for myself, in my experience, the connection I have with the C-suite is mainly during the uh, post-sales kind of interaction or the kickoff meetings that we have,
Mhm.
right? And after which we don't really see them, or I don't really talk to them. Yeah, so that is where I'm and when the project gets delivered and all of them, and then they come in for another meeting and so on. So I have not had that kind of personal interaction other than those very little meetings that we have,
Right.
but yeah, required to sit in.
I think what's important for me to find out and for you to think about is what do you want to do when you meet them the next time? What is your
Mhm.
purpose of speaking with them?
But in terms of like when you want to make an impression with them, right, what would be, say, the three or four things that as a CSM that we should keep in mind when
Yeah.
speaking to them?
I think it's good to think about what can you demonstrate that they don't know already. So
Mm-hmm.
is there information or data that you have that they don't know, or information that you know that they don't know? So I don't know what that is in your organization. Traditionally, in my previous organization, that would be comparing their data to competitors, but then not showing the competitor name. Just say to them,
Mm-hmm.
like, this is data that I'm seeing in customers of the same industry. Or you may want to say that from working with customers in the same industry, I'm seeing a trend towards this and just talking to them about their strategy. So most of these conversations happen in an executive business review, so like an EBR, which is normally done after a year. And if you want to talk to a C level during the year, most of the time you do that when you're doing a cost evaluation. Maybe they want to churn or they're unhappy, and then you need to build that relationship to for them not to churn, right? So you might do an ROI calculator, you might work with your AE and do an account plan. It really depends on the motion and it depends on the sophistication of the your company and the client as well. So those are some strategies I would use to have those C level. But I think the most important one is why are you meeting the C level? What is it that you want to get out of it? What can they get out of it? And what value can you demonstrate? Because otherwise you don't want to just see them just to see them, right? You want to have some sort of purpose. And they also want to see the agenda. Like, why should I give up some of my time in my week to meet you? And so I think that's a fair way to demonstrate value over time.
Got it.
Does
Thanks,
that help
thanks,
answer the
Jolyn.
question?
Yeah, I think it gives clarity. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you, Jolyn.
no problem. So sorry, Mahek, I do remember our question.
No
Um,
problem.
so you're talking about the type of email campaigns, right, that we should be running based on clientele. So I think the most important thing is to think about how you're going to segment your customers. Because
Right.
let's say you're going to email them for a renewal campaign, and then you're going to email them again about another campaign or like upsell that you're trying to do. How many times are they going to get emailed, and is that going to be effective to them? So I think that is one of the first things you need to think about before you start running campaigns is how many times is the customer going to get my emails, and what kind of experience is that going to provide to them? Because ultimately, if you're my CSM and you're emailing me like 5 times in a year about different things, I find that amazing, or maybe I find that overwhelming. It really depends on what you're saying to me in those emails. I think this is something from a strategy standpoint you should think about. Something that I did for my last team was to create a calendar map and then what campaigns are going to be run at what time of year and what was the purpose of that campaign. And that was a really quick way for me to just see, I color coded it. It was very quickly for me to see like what's going on throughout this year. Oh my God, we're blasting them too much. We need to like calm down on that or whatever it may be. And so I think that would help you to strategize before you start doing anything. The
Right.
other thing is what tool are you using for such email campaigns?
I I mean, I'm still in the process to decide. I mean, but what I understand is going to be mostly Gainside or Salesforce, SFTC to like kind of
Okay.
trigger. So yeah.
Got it. Got it. So I think like in certain tools, you can remove a customer if they've been emailed X amount of times. So you could also do that. And you can also remove those that don't want to be emailed. Of course, I think in Salesforce, there's an ability to remove people that don't want to get emailed as well. So I think as long as you have the cut of the customers and then you can deduplicate that over the year, then you can then understand a better view of how many touch points, how many times they're being touched.
Oh,
The other thing is to think about when is the best time to email them in terms of renewal. I don't think there's a perfect time. For me, I always thought the earlier the better, to be honest. You could have these conversations 3 quarters in advance, 2 quarters in advance. A lot of industry is 6 months. Sometimes that might be too, like, not enough time because the customer's
right.
already having conversations with your competitor. So then I think it's a question of um, what is the like buying process at the client side. If it's like a very fast one, then maybe 6 months is fine. If it's like an enterprise customer, they have a procurement team, it takes a very long time. You may then need to engage much earlier. And so you can plant those seeds over time by creating a relationship and understanding your customer needs better.
Right. But when I say this, let's say, since I'm going to work in a scaled model, right? So you
Yeah,
cannot have that personal touch with your
of
client
course.
every now. And then also, let's say if I am right now is December and a renewal is coming in Jan or March or Feb, what like how should I position my renewal campaign, or like what kind of messaging should I use so that it doesn't like kind of put them off, but also
Yeah.
like give them an
So
understanding.
do you have you heard of Evergreen?
I think so, but I don't have a lot of clue about it. Yeah.
Okay, so evergreen campaign is when the client automatically gets an email before their renewal and then says like, by the way, your renewal is coming up. If there's no problem, we're auto renewing. So I don't know if such a thing exists in your organization, but having that is a life saving for you because then
Right.
not every customer needs to talk to you, right? They can just renew and then, like your job is done. So if you don't already have that, I would recommend that you work with your operations team and get that to be set up. And that way
Oh,
it will help you a lot less work for you if
right.
they can get a heads up about the renewal. One kind of like thing, what I've seen in Asia is every client wants to talk about their renewal. So it could be a blessing, it could be a great thing, but hopefully there are clients that see the value and they don't need to have a conversation. So,
Right.
but I do think it's always a good opportunity to talk to the customer where you can. But I understand that it's not possible And maybe you want to have a strategy towards segmenting your customers and deciding which ones you want to talk to versus those that can have the communication on email.
Right. So like I think from what I understand, what you mentioned is like evergreen is like something where you don't have to have conversation with your clients about renewal all the time. But like if they sign evergreen kind of something, they will keep renewing the contract and it's not gonna end,
Yeah.
right?
I would also recommend, I mean, it's not all like you don't own the customer by yourself. You obviously
Right.
have a salesperson and you might have a solutions architect or other cross-functional team members in your organization that you partner with. So perhaps
Right.
you want to have conversations with them and let them know that, hey, I'm targeting these customers in X quarter. Um, do you think that makes sense for me to, engage them one-on-one? And they have much more context perhaps than you do because maybe they talk to the customer on different occasions compared to when you talk to them. And so I think, as I said, you're not going to do this for every single customer, but you may want to strategize from that perspective as well, from discussing with your cross-functional partners about how much time and energy you should also spend.
All right. That completely makes sense, I think. Yes. But also like another follow-up question to that is like when I'm running campaigns, what kind of messaging I can also use in that to make it more effective and, more
Yeah,
engaging. Like if I am trying to run a campaign for product adoption, wherein, the clients are using older version or something of that sort, and I want them to upgrade. Let's say if I'm running a campaign for more engagement, what kind of messaging or, kind of
yeah.
engagement
Uh,
series I can.
yeah, I think you should do A/B testing. You might want to have different versions of your same email and then see which one gets the most like bounce rate, which one has the most open rate, which one has the most kind of call to action, like the customer response, and then use that as your messaging in further campaigns. I don't think that this is there's one blanket email that's going to work for every single thing, right? I think you
Right.
need to refine it over time. Of course, there's your chat GBT and your Gemini and all of that. I wouldn't say put all your personal company stuff on there, but maybe you just want to say, give me an example of an amazing, you know, um, email draft that is going to be effective with a customer, and then just see what it spits out, and then perhaps use that to help draft yours. I think you need to have some sort of personal element from yourself in there as well, and then be able to find like um, a great kind of midway point, I guess, for what works for your customer. But I do think that A/B testing is going to be very detrimental and
So
important as well.
let's say if I'm just like starting to run campaigns, I mean, of course, it wouldn't be feasible to do A/B testing. So like
Yeah,
just kind of put out campaign and see how the engagement is within those campaigns, and then try to tweak those for further engagements, right?
yeah. If you do you happen to have customers that you get on that you have built trust with? Just so happen, do you know them? Have you met them? Have you met any of them?
Up until now, I was more reactively connecting with them because my
Okay.
role was different. But now I'm planning to switch into a scaled CSM
Okay.
kind of role. So
Maybe from your reactive days, are there customers that you got on with?
yeah, definitely there are some of them.
Yeah, so what I suggest is actually walking through your draft with them and saying,
Oh,
this is the kind of email that I'm planning to send to customers like yourself and in the same industry. Does it speak to you? Do you think
oh,
I should put some other information here to make it more effective? And but obviously this is when you've earned their trust and they like you and everything like that. You can talk to them to just have a very quick 5-minute conversation about it. I think
right.
that could be one way to try to refine the message because there's no better person to get feedback from than your customer.
Correct. I think, yeah, that really answers my question. And I think
No
I get
problem. Thank you for
clarity,
dialing in. Yeah, thanks for dialing in and for asking.
of course.
All right. I'm gonna ask Mayank. Hi, nice to meet you. I've seen you on LinkedIn a lot.
Thank you, Jolyn. Really happy to be here. I actually saw one of such sessions on YouTube that you previously did. So I was hoping when are you planning next one? So thank you for organizing that. Shout out to Anupriya. So I had a question around once you're an experienced customer success professional, you're working with the largest of the accounts within your organization. You're also working with a bigger organization which has a mature CS function. So other than, eventually transitioning to customer success leadership, do you see any different career path? Or would you say, probably even 5, 7 years from now, you would probably be doing the same thing that you're doing because you have the top tier accounts, you're working in a top tier company. So how would you grow in your career unless you
Yeah.
become a leader?
I think it really depends on what you're interested in. So let's say you love talking to customers and that is your like bread and butter thing. So like earlier I had mentioned about a principal CSM role, which is like an enterprise CSM role. And then I've seen senior principal CSM. So
Oh,
yeah, so that is actually when you get to that level, you're already like director equivalent of managing a team. You're just a senior IC or individual contributor. I think that beyond there, it's then about, am I enjoying this still? And if you are, then you might, some people don't want to get into management. They just want to continue being an IC, and that is what they're really happy about. They might want to up level in their company. They might want to join like a Google or do the same thing in another company that sells more enterprise licenses, if that makes sense. That just keeps upskilling, right? And especially when you go to a big tech company, there's so much training and information, and it gets very complex, I would say. The other thing I think about is there are other types of CS roles. So there's operations, there's strategy, there's, you know, like you might be this campaign individual, you might be someone orchestrating all of that. So I think this world has grown a little in terms of CS world, has grown beyond those traditional CSM roles. And you do see, and especially I've seen it in India, you see a lot more of these operational CS roles and strategy and so forth, because a lot of companies are starting from there. And so I think that could be something for you to think about. What do you enjoy and what do you want to continue doing? And then being able to do more of that. So for myself, like you were saying, 5 years from later, I think I'm still going to do the same thing. I might hopefully be managing others and enabling them and helping them be successful, because ultimately that's my passion and what I care about. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question. I don't think there's like a single answer to this, by the way. Maybe others have different opinions, but that's kind of where I'm coming from.
got that, got that. And being in a customer success role, right? Your closest, you're obviously you work with all these different teams, right? Like you were mentioning, solution architects, PS, and technical support. So one of your closest counterparts is also sales.
Yeah.
So did that ever entice you? If you're doing very well at customer success, then maybe I could just move
Yeah,
to sales.
exactly. Yeah, you could like, become a salesperson. You could be an account manager. You could be any of those roles you just mentioned or other departments that you work with, because as if you have the know-how, a lot of companies value company, knowledge and retention, right?
Yeah,
So if you
domain.
you already know your product inside out as a CSM, it's not a heavy lift for you to go to a sales team. Obviously, the motivation there is your money, I guess. That's one of the motivations, I guess, of being a salesperson. But if that's your thing, then definitely. And yeah, I should have said that too. That is definitely a good point. Like and moving to product management, even, or project management, if those roles are possible. I did have a team member in the past who wanted to be a project manager, and after a while, they decided not to because they were starting to really love CS. So I think as well, like what you think you're interested in can also change. um, we change
Over
as
time.
individuals, right? We are people. We just change what we're into all the time as well. So you may as well, and maybe I'm wrong. I might not be into CS in 5 years' time, but at this time you're into something and you're enjoying it, and then what is it that you want to do? Maybe in 6 months to 1 year, that might be a good kind of timeline to think about.
Got that. Thank you so much, Jolyn. That really perfectly sums up my answer, your answer. So thank you.
No problem. And thank you so much for dialing in. It was really nice to meet you on here on Zoom.
Likewise, likewise.
Awesome. All right. To the rest of the floor, any additional questions? It does not have to be only about scale. It can be about anything customer success, because I can freestyle and talk about customer success all the time. So maybe back to Ariel, like, are you still there? Okay, maybe not.
Yes, I am, but sorry, I have another work meeting.
Oh, that's okay, no problem.
But actually, I do have question. Actually, I'm more interested in this meeting. Yeah,
I won't tell your
trying.
workplace.
I'm trying to like buy concentrate. Okay, yeah. I have a question, right? So, like, for someone looking to like enter into CSM, like, what skills or qualities do you think are essential to excel in a customer success? I know one thing you mentioned about proactiveness, and I don't know. It's something that's so soft skill that it's quite hard to bring it across in a CV, right? So, like,
Yeah.
as a hiring manager yourself, like, what are key qualities that you'd be looking out for?
Yeah. I think the number one thing I look for is growth mindset. Someone who is willing and has shown the ability to keep growing as an individual. I think it's very difficult as a leader to manage a team that don't want to grow, because then it means that they might not necessarily value my feedback. They may not want to learn more. And I think that makes it very difficult as a leader to have a person on my team who is like that. Thankfully, I've been very blessed. Most of my team members have a growth mindset. But that is the biggest thing that I interview for when I speak to people that want to grow my team, or even that I've helped other managers interview for. So growth mindset is one thing. I think kind of adaptability and willingness to fail are also things that are very important, because you won't get it right every time. Like I talked earlier about failing your campaigns and things like that is life, right? Not just within your CS world, but in general, we fail at things and we learn as individuals. And I think trying to portray that as a human within your interview will probably be effective, or in the organization that that you're working at. It helps them to recognize that. So usually when I do interviews, like when I've been interviewing, when I ask a candidate like about a situational question, they will answer it. And I think the candidates that go beyond, they add the piece where they say, what I learned from this is, and that is extremely rare, because a lot of people don't say that. They just talk about, I did this, it ended like this, it was amazing. But actually recognizing as these are things that I learned from this experience, and if I were to do it again, I would do this differently. It's just adding that one sentence changes the dynamic. And for me, it just shows like an individual that it's just really like, I can't explain, like very like on top of, like they know what's going on. So I hope that helped answer your question, Ariel. I know you're on a meeting halfway, so yeah. Maybe Mahek, do you have another question to ask?
So I think what I was thinking also is like when I get like, let's say 200, 500,000 accounts, what should be my top priority to like kind of segment them, or like, how to see risk and expansion potential within them? Like what should be my top metrics on which I should be focusing for the segmentation and prioritization?
Okay. I think a lot of companies use ARR, or spend is a very natural, quick one to look at. But I'm also curious from your organization, is there any specific data points that you can utilize or get access to that help you get that information?
When I'm trying to segment and prioritize, my major metric that I'm focusing on is like product adoption score, health
Yeah.
score, and then the version that they're using. So,
Yeah.
like,
Okay. What I would recommend is that you assign a score to each of those metrics. And then what you do is you have a final score at the end. And then you use that to determine your engagement plan. So those with a higher score are the ones that you spend more attention on. So let's say like the adoption is, I don't know, like 20% or whatever. That is
it's like
high risk.
colors. Yeah. So, red or yellow is like a high risk,
Yeah,
or
you
health.
could use colors as well. And then like analyze the predominant color across your different metrics. There are many ways to do this. But I think like as long as you have logically thought through how you want to segment, and then you have a way to interact, because like you mentioned, you can't talk to all of them. So who are the
Right.
ones that you talk with? I would suggest that you talk about this with your sales team as well. Like are the accounts that I've identified. And normally, yes, salespeople, and they say, I want you to talk to all of my customers, but that's not very logical. And you don't have time to do that. So you're going to tell them, like, this is my scoring and this is how I've, or maybe you want to go to their leadership and get your leader to help you with that, to present how you're going to go about it and then get their feedback.
Right, makes sense. Or like also like how can we decide weightage as well? Like, how to decide
I don't
which
think
account.
I don't think there's like a perfect world for this. And maybe if, like I said, like let's say the 20% usage, it's obviously red, right? Maybe you want to
Yeah,
give that a higher score versus those that are well equipped, and they're like 100% utilization. Some companies, I mean, you would still call that important, right? Because it
right.
gives opportunity for upsell. So maybe there's a way to identify those type of customers, the ones that are at the higher end, but they may not be as part of your scoring, if that makes sense.
Right, right. It does, it does. Yeah. I think that helps.
Yeah, no problem. Ariel, did that answer your earlier question? Because I
Yeah,
figured
so
you.
sorry. I had to address something in my work meeting. So
No
I think I
problem.
only heard you up to adaptability. Yeah, I'm not sure if I caught the last part of it. Yes, but that's definitely, I think the growth, the adaptability, that helps me to like position myself. I
Yeah,
think one thing, because me being at the client side and I have had like CSM servicing me, right? So one of the thing I hear is about user feedback and like how to improve products. I'm not sure if this is true, like, because APAC being, most of the unless it's a local company, if it's a big product, it's usually developed like in US and product team sits there.
yeah.
How does that, I mean, as a user, I know like this feature sucks, but then actually my CSME try to, put that feedback through to product manager, but the APAC is just so small to like, make an impact in that kind of product improvement. Just wondering like how CSM like navigate this kind of conversations.
Yeah.
And
I'm actually
is that a
curious.
common feedback? Yeah.
How does it is common, by the way, for CSMs to care about this. We call it voice of customer, or VOC to be short. I'm just curious, like, how does your company prioritize product feature requests? Is there a way they're doing that?
Uh, us as a user.
As a company that's improving the customer,
Oh,
like
okay.
a
So right now I'm the client. So I'm in a recruitment company. So my vendors are like LinkedIn, JobStreet, job
okay.
boards. Yeah, so I guess one of the thing, like maybe one of our user feedback is on LinkedIn, maybe we need certain searches, but it's not being there. And there's a feedback
I
that we
see.
brought it up to like the customer success. And they brought it up to global, but that's like something that they probably APAC is not like, I'm not sure if it's the same for others. Like, may not be a very big pie that for them to like have that product improvement. So I'm just wondering if that's like a
So,
common thing.
yeah, yeah. So as CSMs, we not every company does this, but we might have a product roadmap. So we can see per product what is the plan for this product. And normally it's 1 year, maybe 2 years. It depends on the maturity of the customer, of the, yeah, sorry, company. And so I think that's important to note. And one thing in my previous companies, how they care about customer is the customer size. How much is the spend of this customer, and what is the, like, how many customers are asking for this is another thing that they care about. Where possible, sometimes the CSM can get the PM who takes care of that feature to get on a call with you as a client. So I've actually been able to do that for my customer in the past, is get the PM. But obviously we have to dial in at a weird time because they're in the US. But we have the opportunity to give that direct feedback within there. And other organizations, they will collate, the CSM will collect their feedback, like you said, put it on a form normally, and then that will go to the PM team. So I think it really depends on how much that company cares about the cares about, I would say, informing the rest of the company about their product roadmap, because not every company does it perfectly. But I have seen some cases where it has been done very well. And like I mentioned, you can bring those PMs. Like when I was in MongoDB, a lot of the PMs are very willing to, jump in to the call with the client. So you can.
That's encouraging to hear. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. We have 6 minutes left. Any other questions, Mayank?
Yes, yes. I was just saying, first of all, where you mentioned that we could bring in product people on our calls, and that's something I do that a lot. And sometimes would open up opportunities like design partnership and all of that. But I really liked your take where you said that when you're writing a messaging, you could probably run that by another customers of yours. I never really thought of that. And then you can scale whatever you're doing, right? Okay, if this customer likes this, then a customer in a similar persona would really love that. So really like that, but not really a question. But question is that world is moving towards AI, right? And since you were part of like a scale CS function, if you really think about it, then a lot of things in the scale CS function, if AI matures a lot, then a lot of those things can be automated, and you might not need a human anymore at all. Maybe just to get on calls eventually, but yes, but everything else, all the prioritization and campaigns, all of that can be eventually managed. So, as a seasoned CS professional, how would you AI proof your job? What are some things that you would potentially, or what some of the skills you'd like to acquire in the next couple of years to AI proof your job?
I think, like, personally, I don't think AI is going to take over customer success jobs, but more like complement our job to make things faster. So where I see like AI is being very effective is making repeatable jobs easier and faster. So what I see as the biggest hurdle for CSMs is research. It takes a lot of time to research your client, to look up all the internal dashboards about this customer, blah, blah, blah. So I think like putting that in one interface and using AI would be like amazing. If your company could do that, that would be the best way as a scaled TSM. Like it would make Mahek's job so much easier. She would know which customers to go after. I think you can never replace that one-to-one customer. Like you said, the calls that you have, right, with the customer, those are never going to be replaced. People just love speaking with people, and I don't think they want everything from email or automated. So there will be aspects that you still need to do in person, but I'm in my hopes and dreams that AI comes in to replace the repetitive tasks that we have to do as CSMs and make our lives easier. So that's my ideal world, but you never know. The shift might be different, but that's what I'm seeing so far.
Got that. Thank you for sharing that, making some notes here.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Maya, for engaging and your questions. Jasmine, you're off mute. Just the last burning question. We have 2 minutes.
No, I actually just joined back the call actually.
Okay.
I don't have any burning questions as of now, Jolyn. Yeah, but
Right.
it's been a great interaction.
Yes, thank you so
I'm
much
also taking notes here and there we speak. Yes.
If any of you want to talk offline or schedule time, I'm really happy to talk anytime about customer success. It's one of my passions. And, you don't have to wait for another office hours, Mayank. So feel free to reach out if you want to have an offline chat.
Maybe
Absolutely.
I just wanted. Sorry. Is someone asking a question?
No, sorry. I was just acknowledging what Jolyn was saying. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Um, Jolyn, maybe just last question here from myself that has been on my mind for very long. For someone who's starting off as a new customer success role, in a new customer success role, how would you suggest that they plan their years ahead of them to kind of have a map to how they can grow themselves within the role?
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, does your organization have like core competencies at each level?
The current organization that I'm in, no, not really.
Okay. Maybe I would suggest that you think about what kind of competencies you need to achieve to get to the next level, if that's what you care about. and think about and align with your manager on that and just make sure you're going in the right direction. And then start to think of the metrics that you want to get to achieve those goals. And that will help you to be very clear on each quarter what it is that you've set yourself as a goal. I usually do that with my team as individual development plan. So hopefully you have some sort of framework or way to put in there what is it that you want to get to, and then trickle down to the goals and trickle down to the KPIs and metrics. And then that helps you to align yourself that way.
Got it.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I was also going to add, like, you might want to think about product training if you haven't already done, and I'm sure you're doing, is making sure that you really become an expert of your product. And maybe that involves you speaking to your product managers in other offices or regions and just understanding the roadmap in much more clarity. Because the more understanding you have of your product, the better it is for your customers and being able to help them. So that's another suggestion I have for you as you start your journey.
Thank you, Jolyn. That was really helpful.
Cool. We are at time. Thank you, everyone. I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties. Really happy we could have this intimate, group of individuals anyway. Yeah, we should be putting some of the learnings on this content on LinkedIn soon. And otherwise, everyone have a great weekend, and I will add you on LinkedIn, and let's stay connected if we're not already.
Thank you, Jolyn.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy
Bye.
Thank you,
holidays.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.